We're talking hard faction wars and the dangers of going outside. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and I have brought my dude back because it's always great to talk to MTGJedi. How are you doing, my friend? It looks like you've been a little too outside for my tastes.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Other than the fact that the sun hates me, I'm pretty good. We had a family day at the park yesterday, and this guy, did not put on sunscreen. So now I'm dealing with the results of that. But I'm pretty excited to be here. Thanks for reaching out about doing some more faction war content.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's my jam. That's your jam, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about what, in our opinion, are some of the three weakest and the three strongest factions for hard faction wars. Some of this is certainly going to be tainted by our own personal experience here, so your results may vary on this, and that's really kind of the thing with this faction war stuff, and honestly, the hard faction wars experience in general. It is really going to depend on your roster, honestly, more than your gear, because if you have the right champions, you don't need to re-gear everybody, and if you don't have the right champions, yes, you're going to have to re-gear absolutely everybody, but some stuff is just going to be darn right nearly impossible otherwise. So we're going to start. We're going to talk. Each of us are going to name our three weakest factions in the opinion. We'll talk about it a little bit. I'm sure there will be overlap with some of these factions because some of these factions are just weak in general, but we're probably going to differ a little bit on which the weakest, what's the next one. So what is your number three weakest faction and why?
I'm going to start out actually with dwarves. And for whatever reason on my account, I have by far the lowest stars in dwarves. I think that this is just a time issue, but we'll get more into that on my channel. We're gonna go record another video over there after this, so we'll make sure to link each other's videos and whatnot. But I have like 9 stars or something on dwarves faction wars, and I don't know if it's just the challenges that are difficult for the dwarves or whether the time has been the issue, but I have by far the least amount of stars on this faction. And I'm hoping that Tholin is going to be the guy that helps me make good progress here. And I think that even if that's not true for me, it will be true for a lot of players who are doing the fusion. I know one difficult part about this faction is certainly the reviver. Now, Molly is a great reviver, but when she revives, she's obviously a single target, and they are getting block damage, but it's not really helping your team. It's only reviving that one champion. And a lot of times what I find with Molly is I like to treat her not as the reviver. I like to treat her as the control champion. So I think one of the struggles for me could be that I'm not structuring my team correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I get what this one is. I've not had a huge struggle with dwarves, but it's been very razor thin. But part of that is Frolny is a very tanky damage dealer, so I've got a Frolny, and that certainly helps quite a bit. Newt, fairly tanky, although I'm actually not using Newt too often. I'm actually finding I'm using a little more Acresia because not only is she fairly tanky, but she also is a better AoE damage dealer than Newt, in my opinion. Trunda, you know, is Trunda. She's just kind of tanky, and I've actually been impressed with how many trials Trunda helps you with. She helps you with the stun trial, amusingly enough. She helps you with the burn trials as well, and obviously she helps you with the kill people before they get buffs, because she just kills people and, you know, do extra damage. Trunda is like the hard carry for this faction. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be a major surprise, but it is. Tormund's been such a great control champion as well. So between Molly and Tormund, and then with like Trunda, Frolny, and maybe Acresia, I haven't really run into a lot of issues other than I've not been going for every single 3-star floor. In fact, that's one of the things I think we can probably talk about that more on your channel too, because I think that's one of the positive negatives. I've kind of given up on I'm going to try to 3-star every floor as I climb up, and just gone let's go as high as I can, and then I'll start picking off the extra 2 or 3 stars later. Just some of it is a time issue, because if I want to spend a bunch of time to get those stars, that's time. Whereas if I can get to floor 14 or 15, I am on some of these stages, you know, then I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can do the boss quests at a reasonable floor. I'm getting better rewards in general. So that's kind of how I've treated it a little bit. Geomancer certainly is a great control with his turn meter. Honestly, he's more of a control in this floor than he is anything else because of that turn meter control. But yeah, the big problem that dwarves have is there's not a lot of really good healers. I think maybe Melga might be a better reviver for you than
yeah, I
Lolly.
was wondering that. Yeah. And
Just
I might just start trying to bring Brogni.
yeah, Brogni would
Like,
be a good
I feel
way to
like I've
keep alive
forgotten
too.
about him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not gonna put Brogni in there, at least get somebody in a bolster set.
Yeah, I mean, Brogni in a bolster
Yeah.
set's great, but yeah,
Yeah.
and dwarves have a bunch of damage, and that's really kind of the problem with it is they've got a bunch of damage and some control and not a lot of healing, but they're tanky. So you either kind of
Yeah,
have to blow
yeah.
your way through it really quickly or figuring out some way to heal with the limited support champions you're going to have on that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a
Oh,
good
man.
pick. I almost picked them as a powerful one because how much of a carry Trunda is, but at the same time, they do definitely
Yeah.
have some weaknesses, which is kind of fun. My third weakest, honestly, is Bannerlords.
Okay.
And I think this is one of these things that for some people, if you've got Taurus and Marichka, it's easy. If you've got Baron, that probably helps a ton. Quintus has been absolutely crucial for me, but for the most part, it's been Quintus does some good damage. Stultus does some good damage. I guess I could use Blade Master, but mine, to be fair, mine's not built particularly well. Sigmund's been a good MVP as a control and a tank champion. I know you love Sigmund too, so I figured you'd
I
appreciate
do.
that.
I want him. I still don't have him on my main account.
Wow. And Raglan has probably been key because but the problem is for people that don't have Raglan, your next best reviver, because the only other reviver in the faction is Ursula, who
Well, you have Kaja as well.
That's right. You have Kaja right now too. So Kaja, I guess,
Yeah.
is an option. But again, this is a legendary. The only epic reviver is Ursula, if I recall.
Right.
And Ursula's revive is great, but it's a 5-turn cooldown.
And she's so hard to keep alive too. Her base defense is embarrassing.
Yeah, and I mean the rest of these skills are okay. I mean they're helpful, but they're not healing. So you now need to bring a healer. So now you're using two different champions to fill the full of reviver and healer, which I guess Adeline is available for people if you're desperate for a healer. But yeah, and the damage is just. Archmage, I've been using Archmage for damage. Archmage actually can smack pretty hard. Obviously, Stag Knight's great. There's a bunch of good-ish champions here. I mean, even Lady Annabelle's been good for some trials. She's actually been great to throw some accuracy on her in her build for Bommel, and she's fine. But there's not a lot of, outside of these, basically, outside the Void Legendaries, there's no rock stars in here that are going to help carry you. And it's a lot of slightly above average, and so it just feels like it's a struggling faction. But it's one of these factions too where it's just kind of hard to put my finger on exactly why, because it's just like the damage is good but not great unless you have Taurus. The healing is good but not great unless you have Raglan. It's kind of like that's where it's at. So
yeah, I'm gonna save my thoughts because this may or may not appear later
again
in the video.
That's
so stick around.
All right, so what's your number 2?
My number 2 for weakest, I'm actually going to go with Dark Elves.
Ooh.
I have found it very difficult to balance the killing everybody and completing trials for this faction. If you have Aphodus, he is a freaking baller. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
So good now after his buff. But also, if you have him in the team, I've had to take him out so many times because I'm just killing everybody. And even on his A1 smacks so hard and places decreased defense that you're just killing people too quickly. And then who am I relying on for the control is usually Vizix, which is great, but she can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I even have Blind Seer as the reviver, but she is not a good reviver. Even after her buff, she's very mediocre. And so those are the legendaries and mythics. If you don't have those, then you're relying on even less good champion. And the stupid freeze level is an actual embarrassment for this faction to have that as a qualification.
Oh yeah, because your freeze champions are Ray, and I think that's it, right?
You have Ray, you have Loria technically, and Durandil does it technically on his A1. So like there are some champions that do it, but it should not be a task for this faction. Not at all.
Yeah, I
And
think
like
that
I
was
have
actually the
all
one
three of those.
that was probably the one that made me look at it and say, you know what, I'm going to give up on doing these missions every day for a while because
I
I have a
skipped it.
Ray. I didn't really want to build her out because I don't have her built out at the
Right.
moment.
Right.
And yeah, just very,
And I
very
think that is
frustrating.
going to be the case for a lot of the other 3-star qualifications for this faction. I think it's going to be difficult to 3-star levels with this faction. And so that's why I put it on there as my number 2.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good pick. Now, it wasn't one of mine, but again, I've got Ophidius, so
Mm-hmm.
he just does so much damage. It's awesome. But like Mithrala is actually fairly good for control because with the petrification, people
Yes.
take a turn and then they stone themselves and then they suddenly are controlled for a little while, and the stoning themselves
As long
also
as you can
cleanses all the
survive the
buffs.
hits.
Yeah, you do have to survive the hits, though, so you need to have enough tankiness or enough revival. Yeah, Blind Seer is certainly better, but I don't actually have a Blind Seer in this account because she was a plus for Mithrala, so I was plussing Mithrala with Blind Seer.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
So are
that's
you
certainly.
using the epic one then?
I actually have not
Caden?
been using Reviver. I've just been staying alive because Ophidius kills everything so
Oh.
fast. So I
Oh,
haven't been
okay,
worrying with
nice.
the 3 stars. So it's been very
Oh, that
freeing,
makes
but it's going to
sense.
be a problem once I need to deal with those 3 stars on some of those things there.
Oh yeah, I think like once we have 3-starred the stages, it will be perfectly fine to run this faction. You
Mhm.
have enough control, you have enough damage, that's all great. But the 3 stars does not match up well with the roster for this faction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that is a good pick.
What is your this is your second one?
Yeah, this is my second one. I had I think I'm still going to go with orcs.
Okay.
And
They
it's
almost made my list, so
yeah,
I definitely understand
I
this
have
one.
thought about this, and part of the problem with this is like I know Ash did a video where he said orcs was like one of the worst factions in the game, and then I did not struggle with orcs at all for a while. But looking at it more, the reason I not struggle with our orcs, for example, is like I had a Tila built out. Tila actually helps with a ton of the quests. She brings a bunch of
Oh,
healing and useful. She's actually got some great utility in a stun set. So I've had her in a stun set, and that's kind of solved a lot of my problems. But I've kind of
yeah.
hit a wall where I just don't have the champions to go further. There's good champions in this faction, but there's Artek is a great champion and is actually really bad for hard faction wars, other than possibly the burn levels, because his damage is slow and steady, and this is not a slow and steady paced burn at any way, shape, or form. So Artek is just
Yeah.
not good, or at least the way I've got him built for you certainly could just build damage Artak, and that might fix the issue. Maybe not. Maybe I need to build a Robar because Robar might actually bring the smack finally for something like that. Maybe
He
Shayak brings
does.
the control. Maybe King Garag might actually be a nuker that I could use finally at some point. Bells is very useful with this kit because block buffs is definitely a good thing to have. But all these champions are good-ish. But like the only
Right.
reason this has been super easy is Raka. And
Yeah,
if you don't
she's
have
so
the Void,
good.
you don't have Raka, you're struggling to revive your team. I mean, there's some good champions in the epics. Tagor's a good epic. Jorga's a good epic, so they're going to keep you
Mhm.
alive and do some good stuff for you in general. But they don't do enough to be like that's your sole reviver and healer on your team either. Raka does enough to be the person that keeps you alive, keeps you cleansed, keeps you shielded, and revives everyone who's dying. And
Yeah, is
it's
Warlord the only shield champion in this faction too?
Raka. Raka's got
Raka
huge
put the
shields on her
shield
A2.
on? Okay, okay. So Raka and then Warlord. Are there any like accessible champions that do a shield? I don't think
I
so.
don't think does Trumbar do a shield?
No, I think it's just
No, he's
ally
ally
protection.
protection, not
Yeah.
a shield.
But that could be a good option if you don't have one of the Void Legos running Trumbor.
Yeah,
That's not bad. He
Trumbar's a good
cleanses the
champion too.
debuffs too. Yeah. So
So
that could be something that people could try as an epic option.
yeah, and you've got Seer here too, which certainly makes some of the waves easier. But the problem is you need to keep Seer alive, and you
Yeah.
need to get her enough buffs to be able to kill the enemy team. Although,
Right.
honestly, her sleep is super useful here too, because it's another way of control. I think what I've been running on this is I've been running Raka, Seer, Tuhak, Duck, and then Tila. and just been slow rolling the waves.
Yeah.
Which seems weird because I just talked about how bad slow rolling the waves is, but 2 Hot Rings, a bunch of control, and a reasonable amount
Yeah.
of damage.
Yeah.
And Tila with the stun kits, and then I've got the provokes with Duck if I need them, and then I've got Rocket to
Yeah.
keep everyone alive and move the turn meter. It works okay, but I think I kind of stopped around floor 9 where I just couldn't get past floor 9 as well. And there's just the
It's just a
champions here
hard
are,
faction to work with.
yeah,
Like, the abilities that and, like, the kits and stuff, I totally agree. I love this pick.
and I think like I think she might have some added value too because she's got
Yes.
the here's a shield, here's another shield, but again, not an accessible
Oh,
champion.
yeah. Right.
I forgot everything she does, but she's got the taunt, which actually could prove to be useful with the unkillable
Yeah.
continuous heal buffs as well. Yeah, I mean, she was a champion. I know when she came out, I said this is champion that doesn't really have a place in the game right now, but for hard faction wars, she's a good carry for a more accessible than Raka if you don't have a Raka. No revive,
Right.
but still viable. But all right, who is
Cool.
your number one? I want to hear
Well, I
this.
think the number one hardest faction for everybody is gonna be High Elves.
Ooh.
I think that this faction is so difficult, and it is really reliant on random legendaries that you definitely don't have built. Like, for example, where's Basilius Roanus?
Oh, yeah, I built one
That
out.
guy has been a freaking all-star for me. I went and I booked him recently, and I'm hoping that he's going to be the solution that I need with that AoE stun. But man, there's just like not the normal things that you would go to.
Mm-hmm.
Like how are we controlling them? How are we killing them? How are we doing all of the 3-star tasks? Just like everything about this faction has been difficult to me. And that's so strange because it was the easiest one. You just like get Arbiter and you can clear it with any
Mm-hmm.
other 4 champions. And now on hard mode, it's just so difficult. Like, I don't even know if I have like good enough champions in this faction to like nuke them down. I don't know that. So then I'm trying to control them. It's been a very, very hard challenge with this faction.
Yeah,
Have you
I
found that
mean,
to be the case as well?
I haven't had a huge problem with this one, but again, I have not. I decided to not go for some of the other
Oh, right.
conditions as well, so that has certainly helped a bit. I've got a +2 Othorion and a regular Othorion as well built, so I'll roll double Wallmaster and it just kind of roll through most of the waves particularly easily. Roanus was very helpful when I did the first stun wave, though. I built him out, and that helped a ton. And yes, he can absolutely nuke the waves. But yeah, for the most part, I've been running double Athorian, Ethos, Lana Tharl,
Love
and
Wanatharl. Yes, love
yes,
him.
he is actually super clutch for this faction. And then Arbiter, I think, or
Probably.
I think probably Arbiter. No, Tyrell. I've just been running for the decreased defense and the defense lead.
Oh,
Skaramis is
okay.
another option as well because he's got the
Yeah.
HP lead, he's got the provokes as well, so he's another solid use champion. But yeah, like Royal Guard used to be like the OG for good all around stuff. Doesn't do enough anymore.
No.
Neldor brings a bunch of freezes, but they're single target freezes, and the rest of the stuff he does is
Yeah.
good, but it's,
Yeah.
the decreased speed right here is certainly helpful, but
Yeah.
he's not helping you freeze the waves and control the waves well enough. Vergis might help keep you alive with the ally protection and stuff right here, but he's not clearing waves for you, so you're suddenly slowing down to take a Vergis, for example.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, I mean,
have
there's
been
actually,
wanting to try Ethelyn. I think that epic, the Void epic,
oh yeah,
I think it was Ethelyn. I think that lockout could be really clutch. Yeah.
yeah,
And so he's on my list of things to try, and I'm sure that would be helpful. Because I think I just need some additional control elements, and locking people out. That's one of the best things that you can do.
oh yeah. And again, that's part of where the Wallmaster has certainly helped, though, with the block buffs on the A2. This is a huge nuke. I think I've got both of mine in 6-piece Slayer, so they get extra turn meter with this as well. And boom, I've got everyone decrease attack, everyone block buffs, and I've done a bunch of max LP hits, so if they're not dead, plus his passive, he's growing, so he's been a huge hard carry for me, with Lana Tharl helping with that AoE with double Athorian. I've got double AoE A1 ally attack. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Super good there. Yeah, Othorion has been very helpful with the block buffs as well. I think that's very, very useful. That's actually, I think Deliana is actually somebody I think probably is underutilized on this as well. You can
Oh,
put her in stun sets or provoke sets as
yeah.
well. Give yourself some extra control, but you also get the A1 leech out of it as well, particularly with Lana Tharl. And then you get block buffs here as well. Another accessible champion. I mean, to be fair, only accessible if you got her for free, but I think most of the people doing hard faction wars may have gotten her for free. I mean, I guess she's long enough ago,
Probably.
you maybe not, but
Yeah, no, that's a great idea as well. I might need to employ that on my account.
yeah, that's really where, and we'll talk about that more. It's definitely going to be about the sets, especially once you get past 14 and are trying to do the 3-star trials. I'm sure the sets are going to be
Right,
huge in
right.
that. Well, my worst faction, as we were talking about this beforehand, and I'm actually going to go over here and show you my hard faction wars. My worst faction right here has been the Ogryn. I have 5 stars in the Ogryn. The first day Ogryn opened up, I couldn't get past the first floor. I couldn't get past the second floor at all. The only way I got past the second floor at all was I ended up building out a Skrank, which I realized I'd never actually built one out, and I
He's
made him
good.
a nuker, and he's the best nuker in my Ogryn faction. It's kind
Wow.
of sad.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think, the big problem with the Ogryn. The Ogryns have all kinds of really good supports. And then they've got Gizmak.
Yeah.
I could certainly build War Mother as a nuker, but
She's not gonna do enough damage. I
no,
was
she's not going to
very
do enough
disappointed
damage.
with her. Have
Gerda
you
gives me
tried the
poisons. Yeah.
stock poisons and stuff?
The stock poisons are great, but again, that's the slow roll version. So they've been helpful. And to be fair, I think I threw the arachna whatever artifact on stock to help with the poisons. I've been running stock with Eurogrim for a long time because they're a good pairing for the poison ignite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ugo, very good. You got a bunch of supports. You've got some good damage. Skrank actually does really well with stock as well, so that's actually a good combination. I've been using Blizzar a lot actually, because Blizzar with the freeze, you got the AoE
Yeah.
freeze right here as well as the A1 random freeze as well. And I don't need to worry about keeping him alive because he'll revive himself. And that's really the other problem with this faction is there's no epic reviver at all. And so your legendary reviver, I believe, is Bellatar, right?
Bellatar. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
He's very good though if you have
oh
him.
yeah. So it's Gear Grinder, who to be fair is one of the better rare revivers. So at least there's a rare reviver, but there's no epic reviver of any
Yeah.
note. While there's good general support, damage dealers, well, Moto, but he's not an amazing damage dealer, but he'd be fine for what I'm looking for. Grazur would probably do okay. Gurgo, but again, now we're back into the Void legendary problem of these
Right.
champions would probably be very helpful if anyone had them.
Yeah.
Um,
I
the
think you might want to look into Ignatius.
That's an
He has
option.
some good multipliers on him, and the control with his provoke and A2, and then the
Yeah.
stun A1. His base speed is embarrassing,
Mm-hmm.
and his cooldowns are bad, but he does have a really strong kit, and he can do pretty good damage. So that might be something that would work for you as well.
Yeah, or I could just pull a Biggin. Biggin's a good damage dealer. He's not an amazing
Yeah,
one, but for faction wars. But yeah, so I'm stuck using Grush the Mangler as a nuker, which it sounds bad, but Grush actually can hit fairly hard while bringing some good
yeah.
support. So this is
Siege
not
Hulk
the
is a decent nuker as well.
yeah. Tolf, you said?
Siege Hulk.
Oh, Siege Hulk. Siege Hulk. That makes more sense.
Yeah, he brings the decreased defense, so you would be able to put him in that Ugo spot
Mm-hmm.
instead if you wanted to, and that's another way to
Yeah,
bring some damage
and as
in
long
as
as somebody
well.
doesn't look at him little cross, he'll live.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
and Skrank
Crank's great.
this nukes. This
Yeah,
absolutely nukes. And then you get
yeah,
burns out of it as well. So very, very
right.
good. So I've not been disappointed building out Skrank.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
a hard faction for sure.
it's just a rough faction, but especially considering again the support. There's good support in general, but there's not a lot of actual revivers, which is just really kind of strange. And
Yeah,
then you're also missing some good damage dealers. I mean, honestly, what I would like to see is I've got Siege Hulk, but I'd like to see another nuker and another reviver thrown into the
yeah,
epics. That would be a good damage dealing option for you.
definitely agree.
You know, And honestly, it would be nice if they did a damage dealing special champion in some way, shape, or form outside of stock. Now, if you got Gizmak, then they're kind of solid anyway. Gizmak solves the entire faction for you. But that you're going to find
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens when we're talking about a lot of these factions. But
Mhm.
enough complaining about who sucks. Let's let's actually take a look at who are your three strongest ones and why do you think they're kind of the strongest right now.
Okay, remember that time when I said make sure you stick around till later in the video? Let's head over to Bannerlords.
Ooh, you've got a
Okay,
Marish
now this
Kataris, don't
is
you?
now I want to clarify and say I do have Terrace Marichka, but I have rarely used them to clear, and I do not think that they are the keys to the lower levels, like
Mm-hmm.
up to stage like 12, 14. They're not the key. I will say though, the key is a champion that you don't have, and that one way is going to be Kaja. Kaja is really strong because she has that block debuffs. Yeah. And also, she has a pretty reasonable revive. It's not the best. But the best part about her is she's insane with Timid, who you do have.
Yeah.
And if you have those two, man, it just completely unlocks this faction. And I think that that is the place that the majority of players should start. If you have both of those, that should be the go-to. That should be the basis of your team is those two. I have been extremely pleased. But also, I have the secret faction war keys. And that is my dude, Seneschal, that epic. He is just so good. One of the things you had said was, you were lacking some control, you were lacking some healing, and he does a little bit of everything. I love, love, love this perfect veil continuous heal of A2 because what it does is it hides. It hides one champion from being able to be targeted with single target damage. And yeah, it'd be great if it was on the whole team, but like being able to protect one specific champion and give them the healing that they need really it comes in handy. And then with his AoE provoke, which is in my opinion the strongest control element in the faction, he's going to be placing the leech on his A1. So he is actually bringing you healing on your whole team
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're like manually attacking whoever has the leech debuff. So with Timid, Kaja, and Seneschal, that's been the core of my team. And then I just fill in with usually Stagnite and somebody else who I need to get the third star on there. I am blessed. I do have almost all the champions in this
Mm-hmm.
faction, but again, I think that Kaja has been one of the best options for me.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, this is one of these things that we said early in the video too, that a lot of this is going to depend on who you have for what your experience is for this too. Like
Right,
Kaja's at least is she's not a void legendary like Raglan, which is the problem. My only
right.
complaint about Kaja is she has the same complaint I have about a lot of revivers that are not also healers, is that they can struggle. You need to keep then a healer in the team as well. And I mean, you're using Seneschal for other stuff as well, so that works particularly well.
Right.
I do like Timid, and I think mine's built out. I don't know if I've booked him yet or not, but I've
He's
used
still
him
good
on
on
some
his own,
stages.
even without Kaja,
Oh yeah,
because he's going to be able to strip the buffs. He has the fears. He's really good.
yeah. It is not because he's a bad champion. It's just one of these things where I've had other priorities of stuff to
Oh
work
yeah.
on. But yeah, he is pretty solid. And again, Sigmund's been super good for me. That's probably why I haven't really
Mhm.
invested in Seneschal. Is with this provoke here, I haven't needed the Seneschal provoke, and then I get the
Right.
shields and the strengthen, which are kind of keeping me alive, as well as
Right.
the better than the heals that he's got might be with than a Raglan, who actually has a pretty massive heal. Although this really
Yeah.
needs to be on a 3-turn cooldown, but you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, my number 3, and I actually was kind of surprised that they were this low, honestly, is Sylvan Watchers.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so glad you included them. Go ahead. I want to hear your reasons why, because I like this faction for faction
yeah,
wars.
and I think it has to do with the fact that Sylvan Watchers is probably the strongest overall faction, just in general, because they've got so much of everything covered. And the
Yeah.
fact that they're not higher is just kind of, I think there's a couple of champions that show up in some of the other factions that are just not only easier to get, but just make faction wars easier. But you've got You know, you need some speed. Well, you've got Ruella, you've got, you know, their reviver. Wherein brings you some speed. You've got a bunch of champions that can bring you some speed, so that's good. You need some decreased defense and damage. Dithey does both of them just fine. Pan can bring you some damage. Arwood's damage is not bad. Need some poisons. You've got Ornn. He's very accessible. And I haven't left these guys yet. You need some cleansing. Duden is actually really good with the cleansing.
Oh,
You
good.
need some healing and reset. Naya gives you some healing and reset. Yes, she's a void epic, but a void epic when you're talking about hard faction wars is not a high bar to clear there at all. Flannan is a really good rare, very usable. You've got Tree Shield Knot as a rare that's a solid reviver for you. A lot of these rares are actually fairly good for rares, but Flannan is actually as good as a lot of epics. I love this dude.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten to the legendaries yet. Elva
Yeah.
is possibly one of the best PvE champions in the game. I think that Podrick is possibly the best PvE support that's not a mythical in the game, just because he brings the cleanse, the healing, the ally attack, and the skill reset all in one, as well as the best buffs you're looking for as well. Podrick is so good. You need damage. Kaelite's not bad for even PvE damage. I mean, he's not a top tier damage dealer, but he can do some damage for you. Allele can do some damage for you. But the epics bring enough damage. You don't need the legendaries to do the damage. And then you've got Oella can keep you alive. King Galkabar is a really good champion. I think he's very underrated. Ostrid, great champion. Glyciade, great champion. Firol, great champion. Lady of... You've got so many really good...
The overall quality
Yeah.
in the Sylvan Watchers is just higher than a lot of factions.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean-
love the fact that the rares can fill in like legitimately, and the epics are so strong as well.
And we haven't talked about the mythicals, you know. I mean, I've got Nice. I don't think I'm using him, other than I think I finally
You don't
started
even
using
need
him
him.
because I didn't need to.
Yep.
And until it got to a
Yep.
point where it's like, okay, I need damage now and I want to set and forget. So Nice, there you go. You know,
Yep.
if you have Nell, you've got the poison stuff done in support. Arbias, your team's not generally not going to die, you know, and you've got all kinds of speed on there. Yeah, I mean, the fact that I struggle to find a champion I would not be willing to use in Faction Wars in the legendaries is already kind of amazing. The epics, I think Cormac's a horrible epic, and that's it as far as bad epics in here. Kellen's okay-ish, usable. Lockwayne's usable. They're all at least usable quality, if not better. And then the rares are fillable. It's just, it is a really strong faction top to bottom. There are factions I think that do it slightly better because they have better top end champions, but I think that overall, I think Sylvan Watchers is just one of the great factions for this.
Yeah, definitely agree. All
So
right, we're
you're
moving
number
on to my number 2 is going to be Undead. And the
Good
reason
choice.
why I picked this faction is because the strong champions in this faction are obvious. And if you have them, you're gonna build them. And there are such unique, like, powerful kits that really allow you to clear any situation that you are needing. And that's one of the things that I really love. I also, you know, so many people did the Fabian fusion recently that he just like completely shuts the other team down in whatever stage you're running. Also, I love the fact that they have one of my favorite epic revivers in Gorgrab. If you have the Gorgrab, he's almost certainly built, and he's going to be he's the exact type of thing you've been. He has good healing and good revives, and a ton of the epics are strong for this content. Vogoth, Seeker, Mausoleum Mage, yeah. I personally love Dark Elhane. She can carry on damage. You have Husk. So many epics can fill in here. And then the legendaries are some of the best legendaries in the game. So I really like this faction. I've been having fun with this faction because Vlad is just an absolute all-star here. And I know he's a Void legendary, but he's just a common one that a lot of people have.
Yeah, because he was fusion at one point in time. He was one of the last 2 Void fusions. It was him and Emic. So we haven't actually had one in a while, too.
Right.
I'm actually surprised we haven't had one in a while. I kind of expected us to have one sometime soon, but...
Dog Plarium, the dog. Let it be a Void legendary fusion.
Void dog.
Or just give it to us for free already. All right. We've already talked about orcs, but still, let's just slip it in there.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I agree. There's just... even some of the quote unquote bad champions in here, Harvest Jack. Not a lot of people like Harvest Jack. He's actually really good for the waves because of all the fears and the stripping of the buffs and everything else like that.
Yeah.
He actually could be very useful to build. I know you're a huge fan of Knave. You know,
I do
Nethril
love
and
Knave.
Bloodgorge bring some damage if you're really hurting for damage in this faction, which is weird. But
They help you with the 3 stars a lot of times too.
yeah, so there's a lot of really good options. Eurost is actually really good to build in a lot of different ways, and most people just build him for Scarab and forget about him. But
Yeah.
I sped him up and threw him in accuracy gear before even the event dungeon, which I'm using him in. And yeah, I'll use the stun there is great. The ally protection is great as well, and he throws up the poisons as well. Very, very helpful in the faction. To be fair,
Yeah.
mine's cheat mode. I've got double Rotos, Sify, Vlad, and Fabian, and I just kind of set it
Right.
and forget it. And
Yep.
that'll actually clear 90% of everything. Nice and easy. I know I was a little slow on the turns for the level 14, but it's like, you know, I'll go back and fix that later. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I like that. They were in my top, and I ended up just not I decided Sylvan had to be mentioned in my top 3 because they were just so powerful. But my
Yeah.
number 2 was the other one. I almost swapped them out for number 2. That's actually how tight the top 4 for me are. And
Yeah.
Demon Spawn is, I
I
think,
like this pick.
yeah.
Yes.
And to be fair, Demon Spawn comes down to Carnage and Lammasu just kind of can carry the faction by themselves. And they're both free champions that you can get. And we're talking late game
Yeah.
content here, so we're not saying anything exciting about getting Lammasu. Carnage certainly still a little bit of a stretch for some people to get, but here you're going to get
Right.
him eventually if you're playing hard, you know, hard Centranos, so you're going to get him eventually. Duchess is a huge PvE carry and PvP carry, but you've got Wyther if you don't have a Duchess to keep people alive too. She does a good job. Helicath is another option to keep people alive that a lot of people do have because he was a fusion.
Right.
You've got a bunch of damage here. I mean, Chalco would be a good damage dealer. Nithwi can be a good damage dealer. They just put Grachos in here too. Not say a huge damage dealer, but can bring you some interesting support that could be helpful. They just put in another Reviver and Preva, good. Cheshire Cat, absolutely amazing in this content. Countess Lix is underrated for this sort of stuff with the block active skills and the decreased speed. You got your Kymar, you've got your Hefrak, and that's not even ignoring the
Drexthar,
fact.
let's not forget Drexthar because
Oh yeah, Drexstar.
he's a free champion that's very good for this.
Yeah, the provokes are great. I mean, he's
Mhm.
certainly hard to use on the burn floors because the burns are reactive instead, but he's still usable on them and still very good. All of their mythicals are very good. Even if they're epics, you know, Allure can be very usable on the floors. Magnar is actually one of the popes that I bring around regularly. Dur is a very good, accessible healer reviver, and I think he's very underrated because this is a solid heal with continuous heals and reflect damage. Not the reflect damage is worth much, but
no, but it helps though.
Oh yeah, and then he's got a 4-turn double revive with a the average turn meter and HP. And if you build him with accuracy, which you might be able to do for an end game account, you got a 40% chance to stun on an A1. It's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
HAC could be
who's
very
been
good.
really key for me in this faction is Umbral Enchantress.
Yes. Umbral Enchantress. You've got the block buffs here, and then the huge lockout and the provoke. And as long as you can keep her alive. And if you've got Kymar, you can reset this and then go again. So, that's very good. Yeah, there's a bunch of good options in this faction. The epics are solid. The legendaries are absolutely amazing. It's all stacked, and you get 2 of the best of this for free on top of that with Carnage, who can pretty much annihilate most of the waves, and Lammasu, who can keep Carnage going regularly. So, awesome. Who's your number 2? Or who's your number 1? We're on number 2 already.
My number 1 is going to actually be Barbarian.
Well, you know what? That's mine too. So let's talk about it.
Heck yeah. I love Barbarians for this because not only does it seem like the way that they set up the faction is reasonable, just like every champion that you have here is good and usable, and so many of them are free to play accessible. I would say Barbarians is the number 1 free to play faction.
Yes.
There are so many fusions and login champions and great champions available in this faction that I think that it has to be number 1. War Maiden, surely. But like even like the powerful legendaries, right? Like Armand's was a fusion that a lot of people have. And
Same thing.
Thor, absolutely. I
Scylla's,
love that we have Scylla the Drakes,
yep.
you know. Make sure you're building her with accuracy. But I think that don't sleep on your Carl because he can be a damage dealer, he can be a control champion. I mean, he's free to get. It does take some time, but he's free to get.
Mm-hmm.
What made you pick them as your number one?
Very similar stuff. You know, Syl is absolutely amazing. The fact that you get control, healing, and a revive in a single champion is so huge. And you throw in a relentless and you throw with enough accuracy to land those stuns, and you really don't look back for the most part. It's one of these things I keep on hearing people telling me how Syl has been power crept. And yes, she has been power crept because there are better champions out there. That doesn't mean that she's still not amazing and doesn't deserve to be built and used in today's raid. I still use her for Amius regularly because of those passive heals. They're just so powerful.
Nice.
You know, even the A1 people downplay this A1. Decrease speed,
I know, but
it's
good.
Meter. So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Armand's great for locking everybody out. The sheep can be annoying, but if you're manualing it, you're not worried about it. Thor just kills absolutely everybody. Absolutely amazing. I love Freya. If you've happened to have gotten her, the A1 provoke is super clutch. You can be a huge damage dealer, but she also brings like cleanse and turn meter fill and some amazing shields. Valkyrie is great for keeping people alive and countering people that are throwing buffs up. And in fact, this might be Valkyrie's time to shine because you've got enough champions that are buffing on the other team. This might be I'm going to frustrate my enemy by doing a Valkyrie on my team, much like the double or triple Valkyrie waves that frustrate everyone else in the earlier versions. You know, Aurora gets a lot of memes, but honestly, you need a control champion. Here's turn meter and stun.
I hate him so much.
I know a lot of people hate him. I'm not saying he's great, but he's usable.
No, but he is usable. You're right. He is usable.
Jetney, a fusion people have, does decent enough damage with decreased defense. Yeah, your Carl's absolutely great. Loki people got. If you need somebody like Loki can single target lockout and really be super annoying, which is actually very helpful in this. Odin, certainly not, free to play accessible, but Odin is a huge carry in this as well with those stuns and the decreased defense, and then he can kill people as well and revive people. Super clutch to have along with Syl there. And then, there's accessible. Like, I was not a big fan of Tashada's buff, but having used her on my free-to-play, she's actually pretty solid.
Yeah. You have a leak in there as well to lock people out.
You've got Fat Man, one of the better epics in the game.
Batman, it's so good.
Hosker, I think you mentioned Hosker. Yeah, he's just,
love him.
Really good. Not really good, but there's a couple of really good epics. High Katoon is still a class A epic. This, the turn meter fill, the increased speed, the speed aura. Sometimes, especially when you're talking about having to hit the speeds of 300 to 350 against some of the higher end stages, this speed aura might be the difference between hitting it and not hitting it in some cases. So, don't sleep on a High Katoon. Could be very good for you. Demarsa is actually not horrible as a reviver. She's not the greatest reviver, but she's
You can't convince me. So, no, I hate her. You can't convince me.
Okay, I've had some luck with her, but I mean, heck, I've got Chrono. And Chronom's actually been very helpful for me as well. Obviously, this is not the most accessible champion because you have to do a bunch of referrals. But if you've got him, he brings a bunch of useful stuff for some of the trials. So
very true, very true.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff here for all the different trials. You'll certainly have to put some gear on some of these people, but for the most part, I've not needed to resort to special gear for any of the floors for this faction more than any other faction.
Yep,
and it's been so good. And even the guys I'm missing, like Elder Skarg, usable. He's got some burns. He's got some other stuff. Could be good. Alsgor is a very solid support. Gregor is very solid. Xena can be a great damage dealer. Zaharis is a good support. The less said about Rapatov, the better. And Usurga would probably help keep your team alive. And Hanorok, great for keeping everyone alive as well. So, and that's not to say some of the other factions we didn't talk about aren't strong. I mean, I know Knights Revs is strong. Shadowkin is fairly strong in some cases. They're all flawed in some ways as well, and even the ones we're talking about at the top are certainly not perfect, other than I think Barb's may be the closest to perfect because they're very well rounded. There's a couple of accessible champions to slot into any slot of I need damage. Okay, well, here's 5 champions available. I need stuns. Okay, here's 5 champions available. I need healing. So it's been pretty awesome. But guys, we would actually love to hear who are some of your top 3 factions and your worst 3 factions. Not only just in power, but who's been holding you back in hard faction wars and who's been easier than you thought in hard faction wars. Love to hear your thoughts on that. We're going to talk about what we both like and dislike on hard faction wars over on MTG's channel. So I will drop a link to all that stuff down below. Make sure you give this man a like, a follow. He is absolutely amazing. Go check him out. He does the Twitch streams. He does everything else. You have anything else? Final thoughts?
No, that's all. I hope this is helpful for everybody. And yeah, I'm excited to see what people say in the comments as well. That way, that gives us good feedback on how we can help more and, you know, where the struggles are so that we can make content on that. So thanks for having me, man. It's been super fun talking about hard mode faction wars with you. I'm excited to hop over and go do the video on my channel. And guys, make sure you're subbed to Bront. If you're watching, you made it all the way to the end of the video, give this man a sub, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the comments.
Yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, go over to his channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. And until the next video, that is MTG Jedi, and I'm Bront CatHerder.